We are sharing a segment from the Happy Hustle Online Summit that recently went down, specifically Mr. John Lee Dumas' summit on how to master productivity, discipline, and focus. We're going to be diving in.
Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Cary Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality.
JLD, my brother from another mother. Let me make you a co-host. And there you go.
JLD in the house. What's going on, everybody?
I love it, man. I love it. Let me add a pin. I see Mark's slide deck here. Why is his slide deck still up here, Mark?
I think he needs to stop sharing screen if possible.
Oh, there you go. All right. JLD, my brother, let me give you a proper intro because you deserve it. And I mean, ultimately, we could talk about you for many, many moons about how many awesome accolades, but let me just go off the cuff here. You are an award-winning podcaster of Entrepreneurs on Fire. You're a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author. You're a new father to a beautiful baby Bo and a husband. Oh, there he is. He's got it ready. Look at that cutie. And he's a husband, but he's a happy hustler. And he really is someone that I'm so inspired by. JLD, you know this, but you have inspired me greatly on my journey to really putting the happy in my hustle. I've seen how you've set up your business to be a lifestyle business, essentially, where you're not working typically more than 20 hours per week, right? And I mean, yeah, sure, there's some weeks here and there where you do more, but you've been able to really create ultimate freedom, those three freedoms that we all crave: creative, time, and financial freedom. And one thing that I really respect about you is how you've mitigated your exposure to technology. And that's why I'm excited for you to talk about unplugging digitally, but still crushing it with your business and being able to, have an 8-figure plus company, yet still work this minimal amount of time. This seems like a pipe dream for many people. And I'm so excited for you to be living proof and to rock the virtual stage on the Happy Hustle Summit. So brother, the floor is yours.
Well, I'm excited to be here. And I want to start off by just saying that I am a big believer in the fact that when you say yes to something, you're saying no to everything else that could otherwise be occupying that time. So that is where I'm so intentional about where I say yes to something, which I hope shows everybody who's either watching this live or as a recording, what I think about Cary and the whole Happy Hustle brand, because I said yes to this, whereas I really say no to basically everything for the reasons that I just gave. And, Cary did a great job breaking down a little bit about myself. Back in 2012, I decided to launch the first and only daily podcast interviewing the world's most successful entrepreneurs. And that's why I ended up winning as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a podcaster, is because of that key word. I was the only show in town. So I was the absolute best daily podcast in the world starting day one. I was the absolute worst daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs in the world starting day one. I was the only daily podcast in the world starting day one that was interviewing entrepreneurs. And here I am over 4,300 and some odd episodes later, still cranking it out every single day, 7 days a week, over 175 million listens of the show. It's been a 7-figure net profit business for 11 years straight. And, something that I might get into a little bit later is the word enough as well, which I think is really important when it comes to being a happy hustler. So I'll dive on in now. And Cary, I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but right now you're pinned as like the main video. And maybe that's just me. I don't know if you wanted to swap that, but
that's just you. You're the main
perfect.
pin.
Yep. Sounds good. So I just wanted to make sure everything was set up there. And I'm excited to chat about this topic specifically because Cary is so right when he was talking about this topic, about the fact that you can accomplish amazing things in life without giving up the happiness, without giving up the balance, the health, and all of those different things as well. And I'm definitely living proof of that. And going back to 2012, which is really important in my journey, because I hired the best mentors, the best leaders of masterminds, because I'm very, very strongly a proponent of both of those things. I hired Jamie Masters, who was an amazing podcast host. I hired Cliff Ravenscraft, who was the podcast answer man. And what did they both tell me? They both said, John, don't do a daily podcast because it won't work. You'll never find enough guests. You'll end up burning out. Your listeners will burn out. And they kind of kept coming back to that thing of like, there's not enough time in the day to do a daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs 7 days a week. It just is not possible. And I sat down and said, man, that's where there's actually huge opportunity, is when the best people in the world say it can't be done. But if I find a way to do it, that's where the real opportunity is. But I was taking their advice seriously, which is I didn't want to grind my face off 80, 90, 100 hours a week just to do this. I wanted to find the balance. I wanted to find the happiness and keep the happiness within podcasting. So I sat down and I said, well, how am I going to do this? And I looked back into my past and I said, well, what worked for me in the past? What have I learned through my experience? Because at that time, 12 years ago, I was 32 years old. I had been an officer in the U.S. Army for 8 years. I'd gone to law school, corporate finance, commercial real estate. I had had successes and failures in all of those ventures. And I said, let's go back to my military days and really find out, like when I was training for war, when I was 22 years old, in charge of a platoon of 16 men, 4 tanks, going to Iraq for a 13-month tour of duty, where every day was going to be a day where I was facing life and or death, which happened for 13 months. How do we train to give ourselves the best chance to come home alive? And not to get into too many details about that, but, sadly, and I like to pay homage to this because it happened, is that 4 of my 16 soldiers did not make it back. And that is something that I'm always, wanting to remember and never wanting to forget, because that is a sacrifice that they made. And it makes me renew my commitments every day, every week, every year to living the type of life that I want to live, not the type of life that other people may think I need to live and want to live. And if you guys are lucky enough to hear, Bo's making a little appearance in the background, which is great. And I know, Cary, you're all in that stage right now, yes, as well, with a 6-month-old for Bo, for my son. So that's great. But that is the absolute thing that I recognized, was I'm going to make sure that my life going forward, I'm going to accomplish my goals, but not at the sacrifice of being happy, of being healthy, of being balanced. And so I went back to that training and I said to myself, like, man, like, what is it that we did during that training cycle that prepared us for war, for battle? And I went back and I was thinking on that training, and it was like, it was so obvious that we were just completely batching all of our skills. We had one day where we just focused on small arms, one day that we just focused on first aid, one day that and we were getting so much accomplished in this very small time frame because we were deploying very shortly. And I said, well, how can I take that mentality that the Army has tried and tested over decades and even generations to prove out that model, to make it as best as possible? How can I apply that to what I'm doing as a solopreneur, as an individual entrepreneur that just wants to, start a podcast interviewing the world's most successful entrepreneurs? I mean, let's be real. That's another great thing the Army gave me, was perspective. Like, I wasn't going to war. I wasn't going to be getting shot at every single day, waking up to mortar rounds, landing all around me. I was going to be getting up and interviewing a successful entrepreneur 7 days a week. So let's be real. Like, I can do this, but let me figure out a plan on how to do that. And the plan that I developed, and this is 12 years ago, and I still adhere to it to this day, is called batching like a baller. And that's exactly what I do. Instead of like what everybody was thinking is like, man, you're going to have to get up every day, find an entrepreneur, schedule with an entrepreneur, interview an entrepreneur, edit that interview, upload it to the media host, do the show notes right there because it's going live that day. I said, no, I'm going to stay 45 to 60 days ahead of the game. That means I'm always going to have at least 45 to 60 interviews done and banked. So that was a big part that I was focused on when it came to pre-interview, my whole 3-month pre-interview cycle, or I should say pre-launch cycle. And that was such a key part of it. And then I said, hey, I'm going to be reaching out to a quantity of people. I'm going to batch like a baller. And every single Thursday, I'm going to be interviewing 7 people, 7 individuals every Thursday. And that's going to be my Super Bowl. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to say, you know, this is going to be a long day, a very mind intensive day. A lot of mental bandwidth is going to be used. But guess what? The sun's going to rise. I'm going to open my eyes. The sun will set. And when the sun sets, I will have done 7 interviews. Like, it's just easy when you think about that. Like, the day's going to end and the work will be done if you have it scheduled. Now it's just a matter of executing it. So every Thursday, I could mentally prepare myself to batch like a baller and then interview 7 amazing people, get in the right zone, get in the right mindset, you know, make sure Bo's downstairs, not right outside my door, and get everything set up and interview 7 amazing people. And by doing that, guess what? I've had an amazingly happy and balanced business for now 12 years. My burnout has been 0. I've never tired of what I do because I wake up once a week saying, hey, this is my Super Bowl. This is my day once a week where I'm going to pump myself up. You know, I'm going to get my coffee out, you know, which I have right here, and I'm going to sip it and I'm going to interview and talk to great people. And then I'm going to give it my all. And I did that. And last Thursday, I did that. And then I was ready for some Netflix, ready for some chill, ready to just decompress. But that was my Super Bowl. That was my day. So batching like a baller was super key. And Cary, I know we have somewhat limited time, so keep me posted on that. But basically what I want to do next is go through what I feel like will really cement my philosophy in this whole process. And that is through this mastery journal, which is something that I created now 7 years ago. The reason why I created this, thank you, is because my audience was coming to me. They're saying, John, we see that you live a life of balance. Like, we see that you're living a life where, you know, we were doing 75 to 90-day European trips every single year. And I was being very vocal during those trips. I mean, this was every single year. We're going to Europe for 75 days, 80 days, 90 days, consecutive years. And I'm being very vocal when I'm going on the trip of like, hey, I am literally not working / interviewing anybody during this time. I'm going to double time for the couple months leading up to it. So I'm going to start doing every Tuesday and Thursday. I'll start doing interviews, which of course leads, you know, to more work in the beginning. But during that trip, I was just off. I was still connected via email and via social media because I wanted to, but I was not doing the main part of my business, which was interviewing entrepreneurs, because I was able to batch like a baller and make it happen and still take these amazing 75, 80, 90-day European trips every single year. Even just last year, I went on a 30-day river cruise while Kate was pregnant, doing this exact same thing. I'm going to Maine for a month this summer and then San Diego for a month this summer with Bo. So I'm not going to be like quite as free as I normally am on those trips. But guess what? I'm not going to interview a single person because I'm going to be all locked in before then. And the shows will be scheduled and they'll be released every single day, 7 days a week, because I'm batching like a baller. So people were saying, how can you live this life generating 7 figures of net revenue a year? Because one thing that we've done, Cary, is we've now for 128 months in a row, we've published a monthly income report where we show all of our numbers, every penny that we make, every penny that we spend. I bring my lawyer on and my accountant on to validate the reports and to share some value of their own in the legal and accounting world. And we've done that for 128 months in a row. So we're very vocal of like, hey, this is also not affecting the finances of our business because of how we set it up. So people are asking, how are you doing it? And I said, these 3 words: productivity, discipline, and focus. Productivity, discipline, and focus. And that's why I created the Mastery Journal, because the Mastery Journal is master productivity, discipline, and focus in 100 days. This is still to this day what I consider one of my top 3 works that I've done in 12 years. It might be my best. I'm not going to say it's my best. It's one of my top three. I don't want to choose one of my babies, so to speak, but it's one of the top three things that I've created.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming, but I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquires skills. You've probably heard people talk about, oh, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. Really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure-free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that The Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available, because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode.
In 12 years. And it's based off of my experience, but also the genius of all the guests that I've interviewed, which is now over 4,300 successful entrepreneurs. So what is productivity? Productivity isn't what most people think it is. Most people are like, John, I was so busy today. I did this and I read that and I ran here and I went there. I'm like, you were busy. You are not being productive, because being productive means one thing. You are producing the right content for your business. Period. End of story. I don't care what business you're in. The only time you're being productive is when you are producing the right content for your business. And there's a lot of ways you can produce content for your business, and there's a lot of ways you can make that happen. That's when you are being productive as an entrepreneur. So anything else, you're being busy, you're wasting time, you're not being productive. Stop kidding yourself. So produce the right content for your business. That is the truth of being productive. How are you disciplined? Think about being disciplined. What that means is every day when you wake up, you have a plan of action that you are going to execute. You are a disciple. Get it? That's the word of discipline. You are a disciple of that plan of action, and you are committed to executing that plan all the way through. And guess what? You don't create that plan after you wake up in the morning when you're struggling to get up and you're drinking coffee and doing all those things. You win tomorrow today. Every single day that I wake up, I'm never making my plan for that day because it's already been made by the 24 hours ago JLD. Just like tomorrow's plan will be done by today's me. I will create tomorrow's plan today. I will win tomorrow today. I will have a plan of action, and I will be a disciple to executing that plan. I will be disciplined. That is true discipline. Few people do it. That is why for 12 years, I've been releasing a daily podcast, interviewing the world's most successful entrepreneurs with a team of 5 people total, myself, Kate, and 3 virtual assistants, and taking a ton of time off to travel, working 20-ish hours a week, give or take, and running a business that, again, is generating 6 figures of net profit a month, 7 figures of net profit every single year for now 11 years straight. And then focus. Follow one course until success. There are so many people that are trying to do 2, 3, 4 things right now, and you're doing all those things good or okay, but none of them great. And guess what? If there's one thing that you can do to sum up my book, which is The Common Path to Uncommon Success, I published that book 3 years ago, still as relevant today as it was then because I made it intentionally evergreen. The common path to uncommon success can be summed up in one sentence. Become the number one solution to a real problem in this world. Because guess what? People will beat a path to the doorstep of the number one solution to their problem, and they will ignore the second best solution through infinity because nobody wants the second best solution. People want the number one solution to a real, keyword, real problem that they have. People who do that are winners. People that don't struggle. And if you're trying to do 2, 3, 5 things, you're at best the number two solution. You're probably the 10th, 100th, maybe even 1,000th best solution to that problem. And you're never going to get traction. You're never going to get momentum. Nobody's ever really going to care. So you need to find one focus, follow that one course until success. Focus, follow one course until success. That's when you have a chance to succeed. The first 3 chapters in that book, The Common Path to Uncommon Success, come up with a big idea, discover the niche within that idea that is not currently being dominated, and then you create your avatar. That's your perfect consumer of that content. So then you know what they want, what they need at a deep level. Then you provide them with that solution. That is why Entrepreneurs on Fire won. I was not the best podcast host by a mile. I wasn't a good speaker, presenter, none of those things. I was green. I was naive. I was a rookie. I was bad. I was poor. I was choppy, all of those things. But guess what? I was the only daily podcast interviewing the world's most successful entrepreneurs. So I was the number one solution to a real problem because people were really wanting that kind of quantity every day when they were driving to the gym, to work, whatever they were doing, walking their dog. They wanted a fresh piece of content delivered to their phone via an interview with a successful entrepreneur. And I did it every day. So I got a little bit better every day by putting in the reps. And that's how I built the empire that is now Entrepreneurs on Fire, where so many people are just doing it wrong. I could take 99 businesses right now that just came to me, and I could all ask them one question, and they would all answer no, which is, are you the number one solution to a real problem in this world? They're going to say no because they're not. And I'm going to say, that's why you're losing, or that's why you're struggling, or that's why you're not succeeding at the level that you think you can and want to succeed. Number one wins, winner takes all. So, Cary, want to be cognizant of the time that we have here. I know you've got a great timeline, a great schedule. I want to take some questions and give people some chances to get their hands on a free copy, physical. We're going to ship it to your door for all you USA-ers, and the digital copies coming for all you internationalers.
Wow. I mean, straight fire. Literally, let's give some virtual love to JLD. I mean, that was amazing, brother, as always. I mean, just the productivity, the discipline, and the focus required to become the number one solution to a real problem. That is absolute gold. If
let me
you
actually
just think about,
can I share my screen real quick? Like, tell me if this comes up right here. So here's my calendar. Like, this is just to show you that I live what I breathe here. Like, today's a busy day because I'm doing a bunch of like short calls. Can you see my calendar screen now?
Yep.
Tomorrow's Thursday. Guess what? Back-to-back interviews. Boom, 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 boom. Then essentially nothing until Tuesday. I'm doing 6 more interviews because guess what? This is now I'm moving into before my trip. I'm doing now 2 a week every now and then to get ahead of the game so that when I take 2 months off in August and September and into October, I'm not doing any of these interviews. And then guess what? The 23rd. Look at this. Essentially nothing on any of these other days here. This is my full calendar. And then this is starting to fill up on the 30th. You know, haven't filled this one up. This will be full shortly. And then the next one is, then we're taking a quick trip here, so nothing there. And then the 13th, boom, back at it. But you can see this is a calendar of somebody who has so much open, white, free time where I can say yes to things that I really want to say yes to. I say no to everything else because I really love having an empty white calendar because it gives me time to spend with Bo, to exercise, to say yes to random spontaneous things that come up, and to just relax. And again, I do a daily show, so I don't want to burn out. And I've been doing this now for 12 years. So many podcasters have come and gone because they've created unsustainable schedules.
And not just podcasters, man, like pretty much any high performer out there has, I feel like, wrestled with burnout in some capacity who doesn't batch like a baller, you know, as JLD says.
That, and you actually prompted the word I want to come back to that I mentioned at the beginning, which is enough. And this, by the way, this word isn't for everybody. This word is not for Gary Vaynerchuk. And I applaud Gary for what he does. He's doing what he wants to do. He's living his best life. He is happy doing what he's doing.
Yep.
I would not be happy doing that. And I know that. I know for me what enough is. And I found my enough making $100,000 to $200,000 a month net profit, small team, few hours, 20 plus hours, 20-ish hours a week. Like that's been my sweet spot. And by the way, we check in 6 months. That might change because I've been doing this for a while now. If I get acquired or this happens or that happens, and like all of a sudden it's like, let's go into another chapter of life and maybe we do that for a while. But
yeah,
what is your version of enough right now? Then you get there and then you stop.
Yeah, that's such a powerful concept. I talk about the power of contentment and really knowing your number so that you don't get infected by what we call the more disease in the happy hustle world, where you want more money, more followers, more clients, more everything, and you forget
then it never
to really
ends.
it never ends. We keep moving the goalposts. All right, I want to get to some of these questions because we have a bunch of them. People want this mastery journal, and as they should, because
So
it's
who do we got? We got Connie on the mic here. So Connie, make sure you're taking down the people's names, getting their addresses. You can ship.
Yes.
You can send it to me afterwards, and I will be shipping these
Yeah.
journals out today.
Yeah, Connie, if you could, let's get all these people who ask questions. All right, so one question from Christian: when is a good time to start a podcast? Is the podcast space too flooded? I feel like that's a very common question.
So here's the deal: if you can sit down and say, I know that I have the number one solution to a real problem in this world, create a podcast delivering that solution, because that podcast will win. I just got an email from our mutual friend, Michael O'Neill. I think you know Michael, actually. He's struggled in the past with doing business podcasts, but he fell in love with pickleball 2 years ago, and he created 4.0 to Pro pickleball podcast and went all in on that niche early and is dominating it now. It's getting such great listens, and they're all incredibly niched and focused, and he's getting sponsorship deals now and all these different things, all because he went niche. He found an opportunity and an opening, and he became the number one solution to a real problem. There's no better podcast than his on his specific topic.
Yeah. And that's so key. Another one is, do we need a big audience before starting a podcast?
No, the podcast is how you get an audience, and not how you necessarily get a big audience, because big audiences don't oftentimes matter and they don't really mean much. What matters is an engaged audience that cares, that's deriving a amazing solution from your value. That's your focus. If you're winning there, you're winning with your show, with your podcast, with your life.
Yeah, so true. Pamela said, I don't have ads on my podcast as I know people hate the interruptions, but should I have ads to support the podcast?
No, you shouldn't, because honestly, you don't have enough listens to support your podcast via ads anyways. So why even go down that route? You should be saying, what products have I created? What services can I provide? Is it books? Is it coaching? Is it a mastermind? Is it an event? Is it services? Whatever it might be. And then you should be saying at some point during the show, maybe around the middle, saying, hey guys, before we continue, just want to let you know that, this show is actually brought to you by me, because I'm delivering you this great content. I have something that I think could be of great value to you. I have this mastermind that meets once every 2 weeks, and this is what we do. If you want to learn more, go to, eofire.com/mastermind and boom, check it out. Like, that's not a real link, by the way, but hey, that is something that you should be doing, promoting your products, your services, your solutions to your audience. Don't give your audience to other people for pennies on the dollar, because you're literally going to make pennies from that. Why have them spend money elsewhere? Create bigger, better, more time consuming solutions that they will invest in.
Well said, man. I'm rapid firing through these. What if your product is not a solution to a problem, but something to enjoy in life?
So listen, people will pay for certain things. They're going to pay for relationships. They're going to pay to make more money or to learn how to generate more revenue. They're going to pay for things like better health, like better weight loss and stuff. And they're going to pay for things like, hey, entertainment, vacation. I mean, most of us have a Netflix subscription. Most of us have taken vacations before. But what I need to stress to you is what you're providing the number one solution in that category compared to your competitors? So look
Mm,
at it as your competitors. Like, what are they doing? Are they better than you? If they're better than you, just admit that and say they're better than me. And then you got to find a niche within that you're better at than them. Like I always like to tell people back in the day with Amazon, it's like if you're thinking about creating an Amazon product, go to those products, those top products on Amazon, look at the one and two, and maybe even 3-star reviews and say, wow, this is what people hate about this product or are complaining about. How can I create a better solution than this? And maybe you walk away, you're not even creating a competitor product, but you're just creating something else that product cannot or is not serving for a specific. There might be a reason they're not doing that. And so you need to go back to the drawing board if you're not already there as the number one solution and become that somehow, some
mm,
way.
yeah. Sage words, brother. All right. When you respect the boundaries you set by saying no to folks, what energy do you put into placating their reaction slash pushback, if any?
Listen, you can't go around caring about what everybody thinks about you. Like the being a people pleaser is one of the worst things you can do in this world.
Mm,
Like you need to please the people that matter to you, yourself when you look in the mirror, the people you've chosen to spend your life with, your significant others. And that's it. Then everything else, people need to respect your decision. You need to say, hey, listen, I can't do this because I have other obligations, family, etc., that I'm committed to. And thank you for the opportunity. And if they can't respect that, then you've dodged a second bullet by dealing with people that aren't respectable.
facts. I love that answer. All right. Laura said, what was the one big thing you found the most challenging in that journey to success?
It's really your own mindset. And that's why you need to be surrounding yourself with the right people who have great mindsets. Because there's going to be days that you wake up and for no reason, you've had a great night's sleep, you had a good day the day prior, you should be feeling high, but you don't. You feel low. And that's just a fact of life. Like you're going to have the emotional roller coaster of being a human being. And that's when you really need those around you, friends, family, to be there for you. And that's why being part of a mastermind is such a key thing, because that mastermind that meets regularly, that you respect and you look at those others as individuals that you actually admire, that's so key because they will bring you up when you're down. And when they're down, which they inevitably will be, you're repaying that favor. That's why I literally end every single episode, I say, hey, Fire Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you've been
Mm.
hanging out with Cary and JLD today. So keep up the heat. Meaning you're already hanging out with 2 amazing people today. Let's be frank. Now make sure you find 3 other people who are equally as amazing, or at least, in the same realm. And that's going to continue to raise your level because all ships rise in a high tide. Be in the right harbor.
Mm, man, amazing. One more question, and I want to respect her time because we have Susan Bratton coming on the stage next, and she is such a joy to be around. And she's going to be talking
SB.
about loving relationships. All right, just I guess, well, there's so many. Connie, make sure we get everyone who wrote questions so that we get the mastery journal to them. If I'm starting an online business, should I start a podcast as well?
I mean, listen, a podcast isn't for everybody. You only have so much time and so much energy and so much bandwidth and so much finances in your world. You need to say to yourself, what am I trying to accomplish? If one thing you're trying to accomplish is to really be starting a movement, and that movement's going to be benefited by you connecting with great people, maybe interviewing them on your show that you otherwise would not be able to have just because you can't have one-on-one conversations with everybody. But all of a sudden you have a show and you have that's out there on the different channels, and now somebody who is inaccessible to you, you can come on, ask them great questions, build relationships, network. That's a huge part about podcasting. And again, it's a directory that's out there in the world. And wow, I think I want to stay on for this next one. Look at that picture.
I know, Susan.
I'm not distracted at all, Susan. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. I already did a screenshot, so it's too late. Don't worry about it. So you've really got to think about that, though, is like, is that going to benefit your business? Is there, topics that you're going to be talking about on your show that if other people are hearing, they're going to be interested to be consuming content in that manner? For some people, that's yes. For other people, a podcast will be a waste of time because you're never going to be building the kind of audience you want if you can't commit the time, energy, and dedication to it. And then you could have been using that in other directions. So it has to be part of your plan. That's why, again, coaches, masterminds, you've got to talk to people who have been there and done that. And like one of the chapters in my book, I think it's chapter 9, I talk about mentors specifically. A mentor, the perfect mentor, in my opinion, for most people, is somebody who is where you want to be in approximately 1 year's time. It can be 18 months, it can be 24, but it's around 1 year. Because then guess what? They've been where you are in a reasonable time frame within a year or 2 years. And they know the path. They know the path that you're going to be treading, and they can speak directly to that path, and they can give you great advice. I'm not going to be somebody that's going to be able to give great advice on what Susan, loving relationships, because like I don't have the knowledge of that. Like I think I have a loving relationship. I'm going to probably learn from her some great things, but I would never give advice on that because that's not my area of expertise. So what is it that you are going to become great at? Like what is going to be that, as I said earlier, the number one solution to a real problem? What is your solution? Find other people who are great at that and hire them to be your mentor, to coach you, join masterminds around that topic, make that happen.
Oh, mic drop. I love it. Virtual round of applause for John Lee Dumas, my brother from another mother. Man, I appreciate you. I was hoping Bo would get a cameo, but next time. Thank you, man.
This will be the closest cameo that we get of Bo right here.
Yes, there he is. We are going through fatherhood. First time fatherhood.
Actually, it kind of looks like Susan's pose right there, right?
This has been amazing, guys. Make sure I'm apologize in advance if we didn't get to your question, but Connie, make sure we get everyone's question because JLD is going to be sending a mastery journal to you if you're in the United States. That is such a gracious offer. And
if you're outside, you still get the digital version, which is also very well done.